Good morning and welcome to Tanya today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine coming to you from Chabad Tzvich Kadesh in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. And we greet as we do every day. Susan from Scranton, welcome. The Lion of Judah, blessings to you. Robert, shalom in Boston. And Michael is getting ready for Sukkot. It's already the afternoon in Germany. From Italy, also David, welcome. Eric in Norway, shalom. Paulo in Portugal, good afternoon. Davida and Liba, I hope your sukkah is up already. Good morning. David in Gold River, California, Boker Tov. And Anna in Budapest, good afternoon. Gary is in Pennsylvania, shalom. Rabbi, good afternoon to you in Morocco. And June, welcome. Shalom to Michael. Michael and another Michael in Ontario. John in North Carolina. Eugenia is with us in Calgary. Pamela in Virginia. Deborah in Kitchener. Beverly in Alabama. Karen in Holland, welcome. Gabby in the UK. Aleichem Shalom. Rena in Colorado. Hello, and Fernando is with us. Ademia. I think I pronounced that wrong, but welcome. Julie in Florida. All right. We have Vilma, Pacha, Tia, the Celeste, Sina, Aliana, David, Anta Televenta,